In the first 24 hours of World War III, the danger is not one giant explosion on the horizon. It is the quiet collapse of everything you depend on. Fuel deliveries stop, grocery stores stop restocking, payment systems freeze, cell networks overload, water pressure drops, and by the time most people realize this is not just another news alert, the shelves are already empty and the roads are already locked. Think back to March 2020. Within 48 hours, toilet paper, flour, hand sanitizer, and bottled water vanished for weeks. And that was with the power on, the taps running, the trucks moving, and no enemy targeting the grid. Now scale that up. Not a pandemic, not a regional hurricane, but a shooting war between nuclear powers where every supply chain, every grid, and every communication network becomes a target in the opening hours. Grocery stores stop restocking because the trucks aren't moving. The trucks aren't moving because the fuel depots are gone. And those depots were priority infrastructure targets hit before you woke up. What should stop you cold is this. Emergency planners consistently warn that civilian supply chains and power infrastructure face cascading failure within days of a major conflict. And most American households currently keep less than a week's worth of food on hand. This video walks you through 6 phases, hour by hour, of exactly what happens in the first 24 hours of a World War III scenario and what you need to do at each phase to keep your family alive. Subscribe and join the newsletter linked below because this is the kind of information that never reaches the mainstream news cycle until it's already too late. Every large-scale military conflict follows a timeline that doesn't care about your politics, your zip code, or how prepared you think you are. 6 phases define the first 24 hours. The confusion window, the information collapse, the resource scramble, the grid failure, the security breakdown, and stabilization. Each phase closes a door, and your job is to move before each one shuts. For most people, the first 2 hours produce nothing useful. News alerts contradict each other. Emergency broadcasts land with vague language like seek shelter and avoid travel. And your neighborhood looks and smells exactly the way it did yesterday. That normalcy is the trap, and a lot of people never see past it. Inside government and military networks, those same 2 hours look nothing like normal. Defense posture shifts, financial markets freeze, and the civilian internet starts slowing as military communications consume bandwidth. Every system around you remains technically operational, and that's what makes this window so easy to waste. Most people spend it refreshing social media. A single committed decision needs to happen in the first 30 minutes. You either move now or you stay home for the duration, because waiting for clarity that isn't coming costs you the only window where you can move, buy, and communicate freely. Staying means fitting every bathtub, pot, and container with water immediately because municipal water pressure fails when pumping stations lose power, and that happens in hours. From there, hit the nearest ATM for the daily maximum. Fill your tank and every approved container you own, and text, not call, your family, your predetermined rally point, because calls collapse when networks saturate and texts queue until bandwidth opens. Around hour 2, the information environment stops being unreliable and starts being weaponized. State-level cyber operations hit broadcast infrastructure, cable news drops to emergency graphics and loops, and call networks in major metros saturate to the point where 9/11 response times push past 45 minutes. Neighbors appear in their driveways, visibly confused, and that collective indecision becomes its own kind of dangerous as people start making erratic moves in both directions at once. Executing your supply list matters more right now than anything a news broadcast could tell you. 28 gallons is the 1-week minimum for a family of 4, so fill everything you haven't already. Pull your 72-hour bag to the door, not to pack it now, but because it needs to already be packed. A battery-powered NOAA weather radio operates entirely outside internet infrastructure, and that's what replaces your phone as a news source from this point forward. Write every name and number in your survival network down on paper, because when the battery dies, the digital version goes with it. Grocery managers start getting calls around hour 6 telling them resupply is suspended indefinitely, and within 1 hour of those calls, staff start leaving for their own families. By hour 8, stores still open look like a Category 4 evacuation zone. Stripped shelves, abandoned carts, fistfights over bottled water in the parking lot. Payment networks degrade and credit card terminals start failing, which means cash only, and pharmacies run out of insulin and blood pressure medication within hours of opening their doors. Every generator, fuel can, and propane tank at every hardware store within driving distance is gone by hour 10. That window is already closed, and going to the store now puts you in the worst version of that scene. Inventory everything on hand immediately. Every calorie, every liter of water, every battery, every dose of medication. Rationing starts now at 1,500 calories per adult per day, with fat and protein taking priority over carbohydrates. Reach out to your two nearest trusted neighbors, because the 3 household security network you will need by nightfall has to start forming before nightfall arrives. Rolling blackouts begin near conflict infrastructure around hour 10, and by hour 14, grid operators lose the ability to manage load balancing as cascading failures spread outward from the loss of key switching nodes. No direct strike required to bring down large portions of the grid. The hospital 3 miles away switches to generator power, and that generator carries 72 hours of diesel. Your refrigerator stops, your phone charger stops, and the streets go dark with a silence that lands differently than any silence you have heard before. Refrigerated medications move to a cool interior room immediately. Viability extended 48 to 72 hours with a cooler and ice. Charge every device from your car's USB port and a 12-volt inverter before the car's battery depletes. Light discipline holds from this point forward without exception, because light signals occupancy, occupancy signals resources, and resources draw desperate people. A 2-person watch rotation runs from now. 4 hours on, 4 hours off, 1 person awake at all times. Law enforcement operates well below capacity by hour 16, not because officers left their posts, but because the call volume makes simultaneous response impossible. Property crime rises sharply in the first 24 hours of extended grid failure, and that pattern shows up consistently in post-disaster analyses across multiple events. The people breaking in are not career criminals. They are your neighbors who made no preparation and now have children asking for food, which makes them more unpredictable, not less. No entry point in your perimeter goes unmonitored. Decide right now what your response looks like at the first sign of a breach, because the version of that decision made in advance is the only one that holds up under pressure. Cook before dark and vent nothing, because cooking smells carry the same information as a lit window. Your 3 household network functions as a single unit now, with resources pooled and redistributed across all 3 households without exception. Around hour 22, the initial chaos finds a floor. People who panicked have already made their moves. Roads have either cleared or become impassable, and the improvised social order of your immediate neighborhood has emerged. Who carries resources, who carries skills, who is organized, and who is desperate? 2 outcomes are possible at the 24-hour mark. Either you are inside a functioning small community with shared resources and a security plan, or you are alone with diminishing supplies and no information network to draw from. A full inventory audit runs now, with your supply runway recalculated at current consumption rates. Lock in a daily communication check-in time with your network on a specific AM frequency or mesh channel. A Mesh-Static LoRa device at $40 to $60 operates entirely without internet or cell infrastructure and reaches 1 to 2 miles in urban terrain, 5 to 10 in open terrain. Write down every household within 2 blocks that demonstrated competence or comm in the first day, because those people become your next mutual aid recruits. The first 24 hours build your foundation, and the next 72 will determine whether it holds. 1 gallon per person per day is the water minimum, rising to 1.5 gallons under heat or exertion, stored in BPA-free 5-gallon containers or 55-gallon barrels. After grid failure, treat all sourced water with a Sawyer squeeze filter or Aquatabs chlorine tablets before anything else, and reserve boiling for when surplus fuel allows it. Food planning starts at 2,200 calories per adult per day, and a 30-day supply per person runs roughly 66,000 calories, covered by 25 pounds each of white rice and dried beans, 10 pounds of oats, plus oil, salt, sugar, and canned protein. Carbohydrate-only diets become a medical problem within weeks, because protein and fat deficiency degrades both physical and cognitive function faster than most people account for. Communication layers into 3 tiers. Cell and internet should be treated as offline by hour 6. A battery-powered NOAA weather radio handles incoming government broadcasts. For outbound and peer-to-peer, Baofeng UV5R at roughly $25 to $30 reaches 1 to 5 miles, handheld, and up to 20 miles with repeater access. Get the technician class license now, not during the event. CB radio covers 1 to 5 miles with no license required. The bug-out fantasy is genuinely appealing, and distance from population centers is not an irrational goal. Here is what dismantles it. Fuel runs out faster than most people plan for. Roads out of major cities hit gridlock within hours of evacuation orders, as documented in Hurricane Rita in 2005, and arriving at a rural location alone means no medical capability, no labor redundancy, and nobody to cover a watch rotation when someone gets sick. Survival scales with community, and your survival unit needs to be a network of 8 to 15 people with complementary skills and a pre-agreed plan built well before any of this starts. The time to know your neighbors is not hour 6. It's now. If this changes how you think about the first 24 hours, drop a comment below, because all of them get read and shapes what gets covered next. Subscribe and share this with one person you would actually want in your survival network. Next up is the 72-hour collapse timeline, covering everything that follows the first day and how to build a community survival structure from scratch. Stay ready.